Hi chess friends, welcome to a new video. After I posted the last video, it was about Scandinavian defense. Some friends wrote me asking me to make a new video about a different opening about London system, which is very popular and also very interesting. Actually, I've played London system in official tournaments, and I remember I won some interesting game like a couple years ago against some strong opponents, and I thought it was perfect to analyze this game and also see some typical ideas we can use when we play London system. So that's what this video is about. Let's start. My opponent, as I said, was a strong FIDE master, also a great friend. So let's see what happened in this interesting game. So I played d4. That's one of my favorite openings, and my opponent plays knight f6 and then knight f3. In general, I play in the second move c4. So knight f3, e6, and then bishop f4. This was a surprise because, as I remember, I had never played London system in tournaments, so probably was a little surprising this bishop f4 in this position. But my opponent just continued with normal moves for this kind of situations. With c5, I played e3, b6, then bishop d3, typical move here, bishop b7, knight d2, then knight c6, I just castle, bishop e7, a3, typical idea here, just to clear this square for our bishop. So this move knight h5 is not really getting anything. So black castle, I just play c3, also important move here in London system. Black plays d5, queen e2, that's probably the most typical square for the queen when we play London. And then here bishop d6, trying to trade this annoying bishop from f4. I traded on d6, and then I played this idea bishop a6. And here we need to make a pause because very often when we play London system we want to use a different approach. Some players prefer to attack here in the king side, and if you're going to try to do that, then you're going to need the bishop. Actually, when I played here bishop a6, it's because I was looking for some kind of slow position, get some long-term advantage and play probably some endgame and win with that small advantage. The idea of bishop a6 is also a typical idea here, because we are trying to remove the bishop here from the fianchetto, so we will be creating some weaknesses. Very often this idea is connected to the plan a4, a5, trying to open some line for the rook, and also creating weaknesses in the pawn structure here, so it will be easier to attack some of those pawns. Well, my opponent plays here rook b8, and then I traded on b7. After rook takes, then rook f d1, just improving my rook a little here. But there's something very important here, and it is related to the position of the rook and the queen. As you can see, they are in the same file, so this is probably something we need to remember. And in general, the queen is not fine in the same file of an opponent's rook. There are some pieces in the middle, but those pieces can go away at any point. There can be some tactics related to this situation. So in general, the queen, we should avoid the queen in the same file than the rook. My opponent plays here e5, which is a mistake, and here it is white to move. You should try to find the best move for white in this position. I will make a pause, and I will say the move in the next seconds. The move I played here was this fantastic knight c4. The idea is that now we are attacking this pawn with 3 pieces, so probably black has to capture the knight. But when that happens, remember that the rook and the queen, remember what we said, the queen is not fine there. Well, now we can exploit that after the pawn takes. We can capture here on e5. We are getting the queen with the pawn, also with the rook. And at the same time, there is a fork here, so we are getting something else. We're getting back the piece. And after all these lines, this pawn on c4 is hanging. So probably after all the lines, white is getting a pawn here with this knight c4. It's not such a big advantage, but it should be enough to win the game. So pawn takes, and here queen e6 was played. Actually, queen e7 was probably a little better, but white just takes the knight and then takes the pawn on c4. After queen e6, then rook d6 is probably a strong move, and then instead of taking the knight on d6 on f6, I could capture this one on c6, which is fine. Black plays knight d7, I take here, he takes, and there are some trades now, so we will have some kind of endgame here with all heavy pieces on the board. But something very good for me, some very good things for me here. One, I have a pawn up, and the other thing very important here is that I will control the open file. So when I play rook d1, there is only one open file on the board, and I'm controlling that open file. So I think I have everything here, a pawn up and the control of the only open file. That should be enough to win in this kind of positions. So rook e7 and then rook d6, and actually the end is just a matter of technique here. Just trade some pieces and try to win the endgame playing in some good way. So here I just improved my pieces, traded a couple of rooks. I could trade later queens, and now I have to win the rook's endgame, but again I control the only open file here. My rook is fine here in the 6th rank, so it shouldn't be too complicated. I'm just improving my pieces slowly here. I think my opponent played some bad moves here with the pawns in the king side, like this h5, probably it was not so strong. Now my rook is very annoying here, cutting off the king, also attacking the pawn on g6, and again I keep control of the open file. Now I improve my king. I try to create a passed pawn here on e4, and then later after king f4 I'm threatening things like e5, also some king e5 in some variation, and that's why my opponent resigned. Here it seems like this plan of e5, king e4, king d5 is very strong, and then the pawn is advancing too much. The rook could come to d7 later. So black just resigned in this position. So this is the video I wanted to show you today. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you think the video and the content were good, give me some like. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and see you in the next.